Greetings, my esteemed Laddingtons. We're back with a profound insight. Now, I've actually talked about this particular topic before. Perhaps I've even posted a video with a similar title. So as you see, politics is biology, and we'll get into this greatly important topic. It's one of the most important topics we can talk about today in order for us to save the West, so the West does not fall. Now, before we get into it, we have a message from today's sponsor. We have our good friends at Imperium Press, Mike Maxwell. As you see before you, he has released a book titled The Cultured Thug Handbook. Now I am actually halfway through it, and it's excellent thus far, and I can definitely recommend it. I will also make a separate video, a longer video using my podcast comfy voice, talking about some of the key concepts in the book. And since Christmas is incoming, if you're looking for a good present to someone who wants a good introduction to right-wing thought presented in a very digestible manner, then I can definitely recommend the book. So do check it out, imperiumpress.org. First link in the description box below. The Cultured Thug Handbook, and while you're at it, have a look at some of their other titles, some of which I have reviewed. Now back to the video at hand. This particular video is sort of a follow-up video to a recent one I made titled I Was Wrong, I Am Sorry. And I, of course, as I had hoped, I reached quite a lot of sensitive young men and sensitive older men as well, some women also, I can only suppose. So essentially what I said in that video, and the main point, my main take in that video, was that I regret that I have not, in my earlier years, I've been at it for 10 years, I regret that I haven't previously encouraged sensitive young men to go into politics. Now, I said that, I humbled myself, I confessed to my mistakes and my regrets and everything like that, and in this video I will also say something good I've done. And as you see in the title, politics is biology, so instead of necessarily arguing for your worldview, you can actually transform people from within by just altering their body, basically. So mind and body are one, a healthy mind in a healthy body. I will talk in a different video about the Nordic soul complex. It's a lot to it, very interesting stuff for sure, but for the sake of keeping it, in the realm of the metapolitical and not the spiritual, we can say that you are a soul, you have a mind and body, and if all parts are healthy, then all is good and you have a healthy worldview. Now, what happens if you don't have a healthy body or a healthy mind? Then your worldview will be off, it will be unnatural, it will be unhealthy. So you can see leftists or liberals, or whichever term you want to refer to them as. We can use the term libtard or liberal here. So what we mean now is basically an anti-white or a cucked white who doesn't look out for the well-being of his own population. And now we'll return to the aforementioned book, because there's a great quote from it. So I'm quoting from Mike Maxwell's The Cultured Thug Handbook here. And this is from chapter 26, Homer, Oikophilia, or the Love of the Familiar. In 2019, the scientific journal Nature published a shocking article. It may not have seemed shocking at the time, but its implications were far-reaching and might well have put our finger on the core problem of modernity. The article was called Ideological Differences in the Expanse of the Moral Circle, and it told us something we already know about our discussion in chapter 11, that liberals are universalists, whereas the conservatives' moral circle, what he cares most about, centers on family. The liberals' moral circle falls somewhere between all living things in the universe, including plants and trees, and all natural things in the universe, including inert entities such as rocks. The liberal cares more about rocks and trees than his own mother. The quote continues, and this is illustrated, by the way, with the heat map you see before you right now. And this picture, by the way, is the absolutely best way to describe the mental disorder of a liberal or a leftist. So they actively dislike their own. That is the implication here. So oikophobia, when you're afraid or you dislike your own. Now, here's something to keep in mind as well, that some people, some teenagers or children or whatever, they might go through a a phase where they don't like their parents, for example, because they're, they want to be rebellious and they resent their parents for, forcing them to go to school or eat healthy or whatever it might be. So in certain cases, it can be a part of a child or a teenager's upbringing that you have such a phase. But for some individuals, and this is where we come to the quote-unquote adult liberal or leftist, is they don't let go of this phase. They still harbor this antagonism against the familiar, so therefore they need to revolt against familiar institutions, familiar religion, and they side with and sympathize with the other. And that is why you see, these guys, they know full well that mass immigration from the third world, it spells disaster for young girls, maybe even for their own family or extended family, which the nation, the people is, by the way, your extended family. They know it's horrible for women. It's an absolute disaster for European women to have all of these male migrants or female migrants from vastly different biocultures, by the way. So you can view their political views as a sign of unhealth. And this is all quite heavy and brutal stuff. A lot more can be said about it. I'm trying to be brief in this video. I want to get to the good part, the white pill, the positive news here, and that is that you can actually change your physiology. And when you change your physiology, your worldview will change for the better. So you can look at Yukio Mishima's Sun and Steel. I wrote a review of it a few years back. You can check that out, thegoldenone.se. But anyway, he writes in his eloquent and beautiful language that as he transformed his physique, his worldview also transformed in tune with that. And this is also something I've heard many, many times over my many years in the great struggle for Mother Europe, that many guys who were formerly some sort of, leftist or liberal or whatever they might be, then they start hitting the gym, and then their political views change for the better. So they, get healthy, they get well again, they start feeling good with themselves. And when you do feel well, when you have a healthy mind, a healthy body, your circle of priorities, it will center on your family or extended family, which is of course your nation. So this sort of mentality, it can, in many cases at least, it can be cured, because we should view this as a disease. We should view it as a disease to think it is a moral thing to accept infinity migration from the third world, even though they know it's damaging to the native population, your own tribe, that you should, had you had a normally functioning compass, you should put your own tribe first. So a healthy organism puts his own family tribe first. An unhealthy organism puts others before his own. And again, a healthy mind and a healthy body. So if we do want to change the worldview of people, then we have to get them into the gym. So lift some heavy weights and then you will become more right-wing. They know this as well, which is why they, every once in a while, mainstream media, they, produce these articles that, if you're a white male, then you will get an increased risk of heart attack or something like that. So they will do everything they can to keep you in an unhealthy mindset, in an unhealthy body, unhealthy mindset, because then they can continue with their project of replacing Europeans in our own countries. Now, on a similar note, I know many of you are, just as I am, you're fans of Warhammer 40k and the Horus Heresy, and perhaps you've seen this as well. So you see some, usually leftists, of course, they say that there are no good guys in the lore, that the Imperials, the Imperium, they aren't actually the good guys, they are also bad or whatever. So this is the same psychology at work. So you can look at this heat map again, and they see the same thing. So the Imperials, the Imperium, they are the familiar, so therefore they don't sympathize with them. So a bit of a different thing. We're talking about culture here, and you still see the same sort of psychology at play as you do in politics. So to use another cultural example right now, I haven't watched The Rings of Power myself, so The Abomination by Amazon, but you can see there was a scene in a recent episode, I suppose, I just saw it on X quickly, where they tried to, create a sort of sympathy for the orcs, a family scene where the orc is drawn out to war. And this goes against Tolkien's view completely, because he made that world good versus evil. The orc is evil, just as we understand that a rapist is evil. So a leftist, he doesn't understand it because his moral compass is not working properly because of various malfunctions due to his physiology. So that is the simplest way to explain things, and that can also explain why many leftists, they are always taking the side of the criminal. Why do they side with these, rape gangs, for example, over their own population, young girls of their own population? Why would they do that? Yes, this heat map can explain it. Now, of course, this is a very, very deep, grim topic, and I'm just scratching the surface here, but hopefully that can be a good starting point to understand why some people behave and think in this way. So that all being said, to conclude this video, we can say that if you have some sort of conservatives, some sort of right-leaning conservative, maybe a Republican if you are in the US, or maybe someone in the moderates in Sweden, something like that, they are open to logic and argument. But when we're talking about these liberal leftists, they need to be restructured from the inside, so to speak. And what I mean with that is that they need to undergo a physiological change. Hopefully they need to be pushed into the gym to lift some heavy weights, and thereby their worldview will be more normal, natural, and they will heal themselves. They will heal their tormented minds from within via good hormones that you get when you train hard. So that is what we can conclude, at least. Of course, I could talk a lot more about it, but that's basically it. So thank you everyone for watching, for listening, and yet again, shout out to the sponsor of this video. Head over to imperiumpress.org/CTH and place an order of the Cultured Thug Handbook. XOXO, boom.